So it was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, James.
Thank you. I had lunch with my mom. It was nice. I had a burrito. It was, I did not regret it later.
Was it as big as your head?
No, it was not as big as my head. But like sometimes you go to say one of the more, I don't know how to put this, stereotypical Mexican restaurants and you get the food and it's way too salty and just greasy and just makes you sick and pay for it later.
Oh yeah.
This one didn't do that.
Well,
this is
good.
like a diner. It had American food run by a Latino family.
Oh, where was this? Was this in Kaukauna?
No, it was in Appleton.
In Appleton?
Called the Cruise Inn.
Yeah, that's my neighbor.
Okay.
Oh.
That's where you and I ate.
Yeah.
At lunch that day.
Oh,
yeah.
That's where my mom and I seem to be going a lot.
Oh yeah,
lately.
it's great. There's Torados. Yeah,
the prices are
good
good. And apparently we're going to promote them pretty heavily on this episode.
Yeah, they have their first location is in Shawano, Wisconsin.
Oh, I got some ice cream out of it. My understanding of that place, the original person who had it when it was called something else, passed away from COVID.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
And I guess he was super nice. He did a lot of charity work and stuff like that. My mom talked to him and definitely like that place an awful lot.
Nice. Yeah, they have a food truck too. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It might be Diablo's Tacos.
I've seen that one
Oh,
already.
I've seen that one.
It's like Black with the Flames, and it's on College Avenue. And
I'm not gonna lie. Anytime I
Badger.
see a taco truck with flames on it, it makes me nervous. So,
Well, you can trust it. You know their food. You know what they're. It's the same.
I do see that one fairly often. So, but no, it was a good birthday. My general rule of thumb, one, I don't work on my birthday. It's a personal thing.
Hell no.
Nope, just don't do it. I'm 42 years old now. Never worked on my birthday once.
Perfect.
Whoa, congratulations.
That's a heck of a run.
I'd call in sick before that would happen.
Would you quit a job?
I would think about it.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing.
My man.
Yeah. Gotta live the life. Played some video games. I did do some dishes and laundry and that kind of crap.
Well, yeah, you're 42. You're still an adult.
Yeah.
That's how I celebrated your
Ish.
birthday.
And here's the most important thing: when you're 42, my high point, one of my high points today, I went to the chiropractor.
Doing it up. You
gotta take care of your back.
You do. You got to take care of yourself, man.
I've been seeing that guy for more than 11, 12 years. Shout out Dr. Shuby.
Shooby-dooby-doo.
Yeah, he on the way out, and I've known him forever, as I said, and he's like, "Oh, your back was off a little different than normal." He goes, "Maybe it's because you're so old." It was a good laugh.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. I said, I'm going to tell my mom, because my mom sees him too. I'm going to tell my mom that when I see her later.
We should tell him to quit cracking jokes.
Oh, nice.
Bum. Oh, that's a good one. Let's just end it on that. All right, guys, let's do the show. All right, everybody, welcome to your favorite podcast, the one that you listen to every 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what we got going on. Just One More Record podcast. I, of course, am James Dorn, and with me I got
Steve Main.
And the guy behind the computer, the man with the plan, good old
Stu McLean.
Yes, the founder, the living legend of Moonhop Media, and it's where we are in our studio. So if you need sound work, video work, any kind of work, like you need your toilets cleaned, Stu's your guy.
I can do it all.
Very versatile.
He's not very good at the
call
toilet
Steve.
cleaning thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I just used his bathroom before we started doing this show here, and it looked good.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know if he
I
cleans.
only saw one spider in there.
Oh, don't tell me that. I get freaked out by spiders. And never once have they given me any powers.
I was going to say, isn't Spider-Man your favorite
Yes,
superhero?
the irony of me being afraid of spiders and me loving Spider-Man has not been lost on me. So speaking of Spider-Man, kind of going to get off subject here from the plan. So my mom had a garage sale over the weekend, and I had just a crap ton of Marvel action figures. And they just been sitting up in my office, like collecting dust. My office that I never use. And I put them all in plastic bags along with some other stuff and priced all of them. Threw them in a bin. My mom's like, no one's going to want to dig through a bin. I was over at her house for 5 minutes. She wasn't even done setting everything up. Some dude's up by me going, how much for all these?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So needless to say, ultimately I ended up leaving my mom's garage sale with just shy of $300.
Well done, sir.
And of course I bought records.
Yeah.
I didn't spend it all on records, but an awful lot of
Are
it.
you going to tell us what your birthday records were? that you
Oh,
bought?
I was going to wait a minute to do that, but let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's go over what our recent purchases are. So I do got an inbound box coming from Plaid Room Records, which, if you guys don't know them, they're in the Ohio area. Shout out to Eric Young, one of our OG fans. He turned me onto this place a long time ago. Now, I'm going to butcher this name. Karanbin. I'm going to spell it for you, Stu. Maybe you know it. KHRUANGBIN. I've never known how to say that, but I absolutely love the guy.
Okay.
And he did a thing with Leon Bridges. He did 2 EPs. One is called Texas Moon, and one is called Texas Sun. And the Texas Sun's kind of like the light acoustic, happy, upbeat kind of thing, and Moon's kind of like this, subdued, like soul music. And I was very excited to order those. For some reason, I had to order them together. I wasn't going to buy them separately. And then with that, I ordered, let's see here, the Arcs, Yours Dreamily, because I love me some Dan Auerbach. The band Fun. I don't know if you guys know them.
No.
They have an album called Aim and Ignite, which I want to say
That sounds fun.
It won some awards. I happened to be scrolling through their stuff online and happened to see that they had that and I was like, that's a great freaking album. If you like Weezer, it's very much kind of like Weezer music.
Oh, really?
I would also kind of say, it's got almost like a musical vibe to it at times. Like if you're going to go, I don't know, see Hamilton or something. It's like a cross between Weezer and them.
Okay.
Interesting.
So,
Huh. All right.
and then let's see here
So a lot of like kind of hip hop about the founding fathers shit. That's like.
well, I more meant the vocaling of,
okay,
the
right.
upbeat, accentuated.
I mean, I like
words.
a history lesson in my music.
That's the best way to do it. My mom got me 2 records, Simon and Garfunkel's 1980s concert in Central Park.
Oh, okay.
Yet
That's
to
a good
listen
one.
to that.
Yeah.
She got me Toto's, their Ultimate Collection.
Ah,
And then my stepdad Peter got me Green Day's Nimrod,
Oh, nice.
nice.
which is really interesting because one of the sides is etched. It looks pretty cool. I purchased David Bowie's Aladdin Sane
Oh, terrific record,
yeah.
man.
half-speed remaster.
No kidding.
Yes,
Nice.
that was worth it. I got that same K band earlier that I don't know how to pronounce properly. He released a Live at Stubbs album, and then my last one. This is my probably. Oh no, I got more than that. This is probably one of my favorite finds. Do either of you guys ever watch the show Last of Us?
No.
So based on a video game, and there was this off episode where they followed these 2 characters that have nothing to do with the main quest. And it was arguably probably the best episode of the season. The guy who played Ron Swanson was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so good. So anyway, there's a reoccurring theme of a particular Linda Ronstadt song called, I want to say it was a long time ago.
Okay.
I believe, here it is. Yes, long time. Anyway, that song gets brought up numerous times, and after that episode, the value of that record for a while was over like $100
Oh, wow.
for this like unheard, well, not unheard of, unpopular like Linda Ronstadt. Wasn't like
Man,
a
I bet my dad has that album.
yeah, called Silk Purse is the name of the album,
Okay.
and I was at the antique store not having any good luck because everybody was overpriced and ridiculous and things like that, and I find a copy of that. The vinyl's, I would say, VG plus, like good shape. It's got a hole punch in the corner, but other than that, in really good shape. Got for $5.
Nice.
Yeah, album's still going for like $30 to $40. So, and then I sent this to Stu because I just had a vibe that this would be something Stu would like. The 13th Floor Elevators.
Oh yeah, Rocky Erickson's old band.
Yeah, the psychedelic sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators. I got into the Eroding Winds. I bought 2 records, and I was like, oh, I didn't look through this area. And I pull that out, and I'm like, that album cover, it's a very iconic album cover. I'm looking at it, I'm like, I know this for some reason. Why do I know this album cover? And Seth's like, oh, that's a great album, blah, blah, blah. I bought that, and it was, he's like, you'll know that song. And I played it on my phone. I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to buy this. It was $45.
Oof. All right.
but it had two records in it. One record is the stereo mix, and one is the mono mix.
Oh, really?
Like, and you don't see that very often on psychedelic vinyl. It's probably the coolest colored like vinyl I've ever seen out of anything. The jacket was really thick cardboard. This is a nice pressing.
That's really cool. That's a band I think that like was almost lost to obscurity
Oh, absolutely.
and like
People-
rediscovered by
That's so good. Such a
Yeah.
good album, and I've listened to it a couple times now. I just adore it. Other things I got Weezer's Seasons Summer EP. That's their 4-season EPs that they got coming out, finally becoming available on vinyl because of the vinyl shortage. I got De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. Kind of a upbeat hip hop band that if you don't
I remember De La Soul, yeah.
Yeah, their stuff's been getting pressed again. And then the last one I got was North Mississippi All Stars Set Sail.
Dude, that's exhausting.
Yeah, dude, that was a lot of records. I got nothing to talk about hardly.
That was
like-
over. Mind you, this was over like a 3-week period, and some of them were gifts. So
Yeah.
True.
yeah. So and I sold those sold my action figures, so I had money. So kill one hobby to feed another.
Yeah.
So-
there is that.
So yes, it is exhausting.
Did you was the guy who bought them just a collector, or does he? There's that store in town that specializes.
Oh, I've seen that guy. It wasn't him.
It wasn't him. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no, because if he would have came up there, I would have been like, no, I'm going to charge you more.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah.
huge thing. And he was talking about like his kid and like his basement with all of his action figures. So it became fairly apparent early in the conversation this guy was more than likely probably a collector.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I cut him a good price.
That's cool.
So and I gave him a couple things for free.
Well, you're a swell guy, man.
And I carried him over to the car for
Yeah.
him and stuff.
And then you kissed him goodbye.
Yeah, and then he had to open the back of his van was open, and if one thing led to another. So anyway, what you guys doing? What are you into? What do you got going on music wise?
Oh man, I've been working so much. I haven't been doing nothing but working. But I have picked up some pretty cool concert tickets. I secured some Gaslight Anthem tickets for later this summer. Me and my wife Lindsay, we're going to be heading to Minneapolis to see Manchester Orchestra and Jimmy Eat World. Of all the weird pairings in the world, they're on tour together this summer.
That is an odd pairing.
Yeah.
So
Their music's a little more aggressive than it used to be, though. I don't know if you've listened to them as of late.
I haven't really listened to them much. I'm sure there's some stuff I know just because they've been around for a while and on the radio and hear what.
I saw them in the Bleed America era in Green Bay, and then I think I saw them in Oshkosh one time, but I was young, so I don't remember very well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big show. I looked at I believe it's called the Armory in Minneapolis.
Wow, that's a badass name.
I've never been, and I was just kind of looking up, the like venue sides and stuff. It's like an 8,400 person venue. Like it's going to be. I haven't been to a show that big in a lot of years.
You're gonna have to take some gummies before you go in there.
I'm sure I will. But what else did I get? Oh, and then a couple, me and both my kids, Sid and Raina, and another local friend, Chuck Martin. We're all going down to see Gogol Bordello in Milwaukee.
Nice.
That's a sweet
Fall
name
as
too.
well. Yeah, so 3 pretty big shows, and then we got Mile of Music announcements coming out every Tuesday. They're announcing 10 more artists.
Hoping to have a new job before then, so I can be like, "Hey, I will accept this job, but I need this week.
But I need
off."
this 5 days off. Yep, that's very smart thinking.
That's the plan.
Yeah, like, you get that written right into your contract.
Yeah, just right out the gate. Be like, no problem. I have planned vacation this time.
Every year.
Just time it so you don't start the job until right after Mile. Then you're not
Oh,
losing
no,
vacation
that's a
time.
ways away yet, man.
Yeah, I'd be like, there'll be a lot of months where I'm not working.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I would rather not work.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways, Stu, what do you got going on musically?
Man, not a whole lot of new stuff. I did get the new Jethro Tull album, Rockaflot, which is
Does it live up?
some sort of Scandinavian for rock flute. Does it live up?
Yeah.
So I've given it one listen. It's pretty good. I read it. It's actually like the super deluxe. It's in with my LPs actually, even though it's a CD because it came with this like deluxe booklet that's LP
Really?
size. Like it's packaged that way.
Where does one buy CDs from?
Where does one play CDs anymore?
I'm just teasing you.
CDs. All right. So anyway, in the liner notes, he says something about how it was originally conceived as to be an instrumental album, and then he went on and wrote some lyrics that would.
Would you say it was prog rock?
Oh, it always is with him. But I
Prog rocks too.
I actually wish that it had been an instrumental album. I think I would have dug it more if it had just been, just guitars and flutes.
I'd way prefer if it was just guitars and flutes.
Yeah.
That is a very specific statement, Stu.
And that's will also be the title of Stu's biography someday.
Guitars and flutes.
Guitars and flutes.
Two things I never accurately learned to play. And then another one. All right, so this is not one. I actually own this CD. I don't have the LP, but it was just reissued, and I'm kind of just talking about it because I got a real soft spot in my heart for this guy. But back in the 70s in New Zealand, a guy named Alistair Riddle.
That's a sweet name.
Alistair Riddle and Space Waltz were a glam rock band. He was very, very and said so himself. Super inspired by David Bowie of the era, and just wanted to create more stuff like that. So he put out this awesome album called Space Waltz. And
you should text me that name when you think of it, because that sounds like something I would like.
Oh, you totally would. Anyway, after whatever it's been, 40 years or something, there's just been a reissue of it put out on vinyl. This has not been an easy album to get on vinyl because it was small pressings back then. He was kind of like mostly, I think, a New Zealand sensation, right?
Right.
And I discovered him actually in the credits of some horror movie that I saw that I can't remember the name of, but like the song came on at the end, and I was like, "This song is awesome! Like, who is this?" And which you normally don't think when you hear credit music. Like usually those songs blow, but I was like stoked. I looked them up and I bought the album a week later. But anyway, it's been reissued, and they've just put out a brand new album called Victory. So which is not, I think, available. It's only available streaming right now. But warming my heart, the reissue, I think it's the reissue of Space Waltz, is gone #1 in New Zealand this week.
Crazy.
Awesome. So New Zealand's got Space Waltz and The Lord of the Rings.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's a something to be proud of.
I mean, and they're fighting orcs every night, so I don't know how they have time to buy records, but I respect that.
Anyway, so if you're a fan of 70s era glam rock,
no,
Bowie type stuff,
I hate 70s.
I know you do. I'm just mean our listeners out there. Check out Alistair Riddle. Yeah, Riddel, I think, or ELL, something along those lines. Yeah.
That's funny that you found them through the credit music in a movie. That's how I found Gaslight Anthem.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
What movie was that?
I cannot remember for the life of me. I've looked it, I've researched it, trying to figure out what movie was that in, and I cannot find it. But I remember hearing May, the song May.
Okay.
And I was like, gosh, who is this band?
Are you sure you weren't watching a movie, had your records on, and had
this was at the movie theater.
And
I
had
remember.
a few beers in you?
Nope, this was I was at the movie theater with my kids, and I cannot remember what movie we were watching. And it was
that's where you heard it,
years ago. But I was like, I got to find out this band. And I sat there and I was like, the kids were like, let's go. And I'm like, no, I got to read every word now so I can find this band.
Yeah.
And of course, it was one of the last credits on the whole roll of credits.
That's fine. I wish I could remember the name of the. I'm sure it'd be easy to find, but it was a pretty good movie too. I remember a lot of elements. I don't want to spoil anything, but anyway, all right.
Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. So we got some news. Do you guys like the Fall Out Boy?
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I liked them a lot more a long, long time ago. When I got some of their original recordings, I got a whole CD full of them back from the Napster days.
Yeah, Infinity on High would be one of my two buys if it wasn't for all the dirty flippers.
Yeah.
So
dirty flippers.
Joe Throman has returned to Fall Out Boy. The 38-year-old guitarist took a break from the group in January to focus on his mental health. So he's back. So, I mean, good for him for going, hey, I need some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discussions are well underway for one of Steve's favorite bands to sell their entire catalog for more than $1 billion to Universal Music Group. That band, of course, is Queen.
Got to be Queen. Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know if that Steve's going to contribute to that.
No.
No. Steve's like, that's about $1 billion too much.
Yeah. What's that old dog, hand puppet dog that smoked the cigar? I will poop on you or whatever.
Champion?
Champion. Yeah, I think so.
That's how I feel about that. I will poop on you.
We did unfortunately lose Miss Tina Turner on May 24th.
Oh, yeah.
Passed away in Switzerland, which is where she had made her home at the age of 83 years old. She was reportedly passed away due to a long illness. And when I hear that, I think probably cancer.
Yeah.
Probably.
Cher recently reported that she actually visited her before her passing, said that Tina was in good spirits, and then they hung out for like 5 hours. And Tina said that she won't have a lot of time to hang out. So again, makes me think it was probably cancer. Like she probably knew she had a terminal diagnosis.
So you guys Tina Turner fans at all? Like, do you?
I like old Tina Turner.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I've never thought I was a huge fan, but number one, she freaked me out in Tommy. If you've ever seen that, she played the Acid Queen.
No.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
She was really intense. And then
I think about her the most in Mad Max.
Yeah,
Mad Max. Yep, killer.
Yeah, I think I may have a Mad Max 7-inch with Tina Turner on it. I believe I might have that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Shout
cool.
out to Mel Gibson.
Yeah. And then, but I saw some old, like live footage of her, and it was like, and I can't remember what concert it was. It was, I think I've seen a couple now, but I think she was playing with the Stones or somebody else, and like she was intense. Like when I saw that, I was like, oh, I get it. Like I get why people were
She's
really
high
into
energy
her.
for sure.
Yeah, and just like vibrating with sexual tension and energy and like.
Well, I remember seeing a couple old videos of her playing, what is it, Proud Mary, when that song gets going. Like, you can see all the muscles in her legs just tense up, and like, I'm like, she could crack walnuts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, definitely.
Like, I was aware of her
loss.
as a kid, like in the 80s, and like that just wasn't really my bag. But seeing that old stuff, like from the 60s or whatever, like I was impressed.
She's a beast.
Yeah.
Musical powerhouse for sure. 69-year-old Rob Grant, father of Lana Del Rey, says he is happy to be labeled as a Nepo daddy. He's got his first album coming out called Lost at Sea, which is dropping June 9th.
Nepo daddy, I am not.
So there's this whole
term.
thing where they're talking about celebrities getting advancements because their parents were in the industry called Nepo babies, and that was a big thing. I think like Miley Cyrus talked about it. There's other people, a lot of actors and actresses became a big part of a conversation with it, and this was just more making fun of that.
Yeah.
So something you guys might actually be interested in. The Sex Pistols are set to re-release a new 7-inch replica single of their Anarchy in the UK. This will be released for the first time on colored vinyl. It's going to be red. And then it's limited to 4,576 copies.
Oh, that'll go fast.
Releasing June 9th. So I don't know if they're doing pre-orders or not, but might be something to keep an eye on the old internet. I don't know if you guys heard about the internet.
Oh, is that what they call the interwebs?
Tubes, right?
Yeah, exactly. A third man is being charged in the 2002 killing of Run DMC trailblazer Jam Master Jay. Tuesday, the Eastern District of New York charged Jay Bryant, age 49. And then, Jam Master Jay was shot in his recording studio in Queens of 2002.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
That is interesting. I hadn't heard anything about that.
My understanding, it was this guy's being charged with manslaughter and drug trafficking. So the vibe I got from reading it, now I want to be clear, not a direct quote, so this is just my take on it. It might have been something to do with like a drug deal going wrong, that this guy might have been somehow involved in it.
Okay.
So Foo Fighters have officially announced their new drummer since the passing of Taylor Hawkins in March of 2022. It is John Freese, I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. He has played with Devo, Guns N' Roses, Sting, The Vandals, and Nine Inch Nails.
Huh.
That's an eclectic.
Yeah,
catalog.
yeah.
Yeah, their new album called "But Here We Are" is going to be coming out June 2nd, so that's this coming Friday. It's going to be 10 tracks long, and 4 of them are up on streamers. Either of you guys listen to it?
I've only heard 2. I haven't heard.
The other 2 just dropped like in the last couple days.
Nice.
I really like those first 2 ones that came out. These other 2, not bad. I don't want to sound like but they're very different than what I'm used to. I would say kind of more raw, more emotional, less like hard rock type of stuff.
I kind of have the feeling just from the first 2 songs that I heard that this whole album very well may just be like kind of an homage and kind of their, as a band, their grieving process over the loss of Taylor. That's just kind of
that wouldn't be surprising.
The energy I got from those first 2 songs, just lyrically, just like you said, like they're even kind of, they're pretty raw.
They said they're going to be a different band going forward.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you kind of have to be, I think.
Well, I'd be interested to hear that. I like Foo Fighters. I love the color and the shape. I think that is a perfect album.
One of the first albums I bought.
Was it really?
I could probably say in the first 10 or 15 I bought.
But, I've never really gotten into their later, anything after that. And I'll hear the songs, and I like them, and it sounds like the Foo Fighters, but, I've never, it's never really grabbed me in the same way. With that album, I've just listened to over and over again. So I'll be interested to hear, what a slight change would do to the band.
From what I know of you, I think that you will probably like this stuff more than what they've been producing for a while.
Okay.
Maybe not more than color and shape, but you're going to like this more than probably easily the last 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah. Yeah, which always sound good to me. I've heard "In Your Honor" and
that's probably one that I would probably consider buying.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No. Anyway.
All right. So next up, we were going to talk.
I have one bit of news here.
Absolutely.
Another one of my favorite bands, Rainbow Kitten Surprise, has announced. Here, I'll just read their little statement from their Facebook post. Our band has come to the decision to put our health as our only priority right now. One of our members is in a medical crisis. To make sure that they have time to get the proper treatment, we have decided to take the entire year of shows and turn off the lights for now. We do not make this decision lightly, and we know that it will result in a lot of disappointment and concern, but we are a family, and we know that the most important thing we can do right now is to help everyone get healthy. We're not going to put a timeline on our return. We have learned the hard way that treating illness during breaks in a band schedule isn't always effective. We will return when we are sure that our dear friend and collaborator is in good health and that we can confidently and consistently show up for you the way you have always shown up for us. And it kind of just goes on more, but that's the kind of the gist of it. It was just a very sudden announcement. I have no really other details on that. I haven't been able to find much about any specifics, but
no, but you got to love that band solidarity there.
Yeah, not a lot of bands that do that.
Yeah. No, a lot of times it's like, well, you're on your own. We got a business to run.
Mm-hmm. Saying, hey, when you get healthy, we'll come get you.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. I wish
sure
the whole band the best and get healthy, whatever your crisis is.
Yeah, our heart goes out to you. Absolutely. I did actually forget to mention one thing. Andy Rourke, bassist for the Smiths, died about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Thought it occurred to me that that's probably a band that you guys at least had a passing appreciation for.
Oh, love the Smiths, man. And one of my favorite bass lines, I actually wrote this line on Facebook, not that anyone follows me, but his bass line for this charming man is one of my favorite
I actually did
rock
see that
bass
post.
lines. Oh, did you? Yeah. Okay. So we're friends.
So let me ask you a question. So what do you think about the song Metal Guru by T-Rex and Panic on the Streets by the Smiths?
Those are both great songs.
It's another one of those songs that sounds and I don't think they're copies of each other, but they definitely sound a lot alike.
You think so?
Yeah. At some point, I had someone point that out to me, and I'm like, I definitely hear a little bit of it, but not as much as any of the other.
That would never really struck me as being too similar.
Yeah, I don't think it's glaring, but just something that popped in.
All right, well, I mean, it's a good excuse to pop out both records again, and
like
listen.
we need an excuse to listen to records,
right? Yeah.
So, all right. So, next segment we want to jump into is talking about Grails. This is a subject that we had done on the show way, way back when, but we've not revisited since we got reunited here with our new group of folks here. So, who wants to go first? I can go first, otherwise.
I'm last on this one.
Sounds good. All right, so I'll do mine. So, if you guys had to take a guess, what do you think one of my big grails would be?
Oh,
I think
now we got to pretend we know you and like you, and
I think
all right, it's got to be a T-Rex.
no. Actually,
Kiss.
I would really, really love to find a copy of Danzig's first album.
Oh,
Yeah, because that's never been repressed officially. There's tons of bootlegs of it. A halfway decent copy goes for about $250.
No doubt.
oh, nice.
Really.
All right.
Yeah, I was just actually thinking about Danzig not long ago. I was like, I got to get some Danzig on vinyl.
they're
Like, how do I
touring
not
again.
have any Danzig on vinyl?
Yeah, the first.
Yeah, you got Danzig on your bicep.
Yeah.
I think his first 4 albums.
I mean, I have that's a Misfits tattoo technically.
technically.
It is,
So-
but it's Glenn.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is Glenn. Yeah, but
Y'all
it's
should see Steve's
But I
sweet
have
tattoo.
and I have that legacy. It's like the his costume from Legacy of Brutality
Yeah.
album. Excuse me. And I have that album and a few other Misfits albums. But yeah, I have no Danzig.
I have 0. My understanding is that the first 4 albums have never been repressed since the original run. I don't know why. Oh, I take that back. They did do a picture disc at one point of his first album, but this was from the era where the picture disc didn't sound very good. So I've never bought it. But I would really. I don't understand why that's not being repressed.
Yeah,
It's got his most notable song, "Mother," on there. Like, I'm just shocked. Maybe he doesn't own the rights to it, or there's some legal problem with it.
It seems like everything related to Danzig and Misfits and the rights to the songs and the recordings has always been a giant cluster.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were like you were how you mentioned before about a band being a business. Like,
Do you know they're touring?
Misfits?
No. Yeah, the Misfits. I believe.
Yeah. I don't think they're at Riot Fest though this year, which
They're
they
going to
played
be
the
in
last
Chicago
couple
and Detroit. I remember that are our closest ones.
with-
Yeah, they play
Danzig.
Chicago a lot, and they
Yeah.
play Vegas a lot. Like Danzig, especially he's playing in Vegas every year or so.
Didn't
like,
he just put out, or he's getting ready to put out an Danzig Sings Elvis album?
I
No,
think
that's
there's-
out.
That's out.
That's out
Okay.
for a
Yeah,
while.
that's what he's been doing in Elvis the last couple of years, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Like kind of around Christmas time, it seems like there's it's either
Yeah.
Christmas or New Year's Eve type of a thing, and I'm always like, man, that would be kind of fun to see, but I'm like, I'm just not that big of an Elvis fan. Like, I'm like, kind of be lost on me, so somebody else can do it.
You got to work on it, man.
I'm not listening to the album, but I've heard it was just okay. His Elvis cover.
Yeah.
I got 2 Butch Walker related albums. One is his Christmas album called Over the Holidays and Under the Influence. It's classic releases, classic songs, self-published. You can easily find them online, going from like $150 to $200. There's a red and a green variant to it. I did throw an offer out to one guy one time for $100. He shot me down. A year later, I found it again, and I sent a message, and it's like, "Oh, you've already sent this person one." I'm like, "Oh, so I could have gave you $100, and you've just been sitting on this record for this long."
You should have offered him 50.
It's fun. I'm going to interrupt you.
Sure.
Like frequently we'll have talked about something on this show, and then I will see something. A lot of times it's like in the newest issue of Guitar World magazine that relates to somebody we were just talking about. And it's not always. Yeah,
they listen to us.
They must. And then the other day I saw Mike Portnoy, who is the drummer for the band Dream Theater. If you know,
I know the band. I can't say I've listened to them a lot.
I'm not really a fan, but funny enough, because they're a big prog band. But
Well,
I mean,
I assume if they're
but
prog, you
Monster.
love 'em.
No, I don't. I mean, they're great players. But he put a post out about bands that he really loved, and one of them he's like, I can't believe I never heard of this guy before. He's like, but you got to check out Butch Walker.
Oh, yeah.
And he was
tell me
like,
about that.
he was
Really?
like, I've been obsessed with this guy for like 2 months now, and had no idea. And then he was like talking about the Marvelous 3 reissues, and he was like, what a great time to just discover this guy.
Well, my understanding, like I said last episode, I think he's got all of the tapes from their other 2 albums, and I'm like, dear God, please release those.
Yeah.
So the other one, actually, and I don't remember who was in this band with him. It's probably somebody Stu knows because I remember they were obscure. He had released a one-off album in 2008 as the band called 1969, and the album's title was Maya.
Okay.
If you listen to it, because it's on the streamers, it's super moody, like real moody, and to the point where I'm like, oh, I definitely can see where he went after this.
Yeah.
So not my favorite album that he's done stuff on, purely one of those albums I would buy because I love Butch Walker. So another one, Let It Be Naked.
Oh, really?
The Beatles.
Yeah.
I'd love to find that on vinyl. So kind of a little bit of a backstory. Obviously, Phil Spector, Wall of Sound, big in the Beatles, and a lot of their more notable things. Let It Be originally was intended to be a fairly stripped down album without that wall of sound. And then they did go to that version. And well, at one point they released the original version of it on vinyl and everything else. And I liked it better. So
You liked the naked version better?
yes,
Yeah. I've got that CD.
hands down, way more. Another one that might surprise you guys, Bone Thugs and Harmony's 1999 Eternal.
No kidding.
That goes for like almost $200 online.
Ooh.
It's another pricey boy. The last two are video game soundtracks. One is for Assassin's Creed 4. This is their pirate one. A lot of sea shanties on there. Like, what would you do with a drunken sailor?
Yeah.
What would you do? Like, and I remember sailing around in that game, and you could toggle between the shanties.
Oh, really?
And there was like enough for a whole record of shanties on that. So it's good. And then the last one is Cuphead. Arguably one of the more popular games. It's styled to look like the 1930s. It's like a really, really hard game, and the music's very appropriate to it. And they have I think it's a 4 LP, and it goes for about $400.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a little butt.
Those are my grails. What do you got, Steve?
Nice. I was thinking about it, and there's not a lot of like specific albums. For me, like my grails are like completing collections of a band. And like my latest endeavor has been to find all of the Manchester Orchestra vinyls, and just have all of their music on vinyl. And I was able to find one a couple weeks back. It's got a really long title. I can't exactly remember it right now without reading it, so I don't want to murder it. But I've been looking at a couple other like Cope and Hope, or like two of my. I would love to get those on vinyl, but they're one of those bands that they do a lot of smaller pressings. I guess now they're a big enough band where it seems like they get enough records for everybody and do multiple different pressings of them. But some of their first probably 5 albums, there's just not a lot of copies of them around, and a lot of them are going for $100 plus $200, and I'm like, I really have a hard time dropping that much money on, and especially they have a pretty big catalog, and I could spend a couple $1,000s getting everything.
So next time I run into Rick Main, Steve's alter ego, when he's drinking,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, man, I really would love to see you complete your Manchester collection.
Yeah, no, just be on like, buy it.
And I'll be on Discogs and be like, here, look, this is a really good price.
Oh, you're such an enabler.
I am. Yeah.
But one vinyl that I did just acquire, I not physically, but it is on its way shortly. And again, let me bring up the name here so I don't murder it. Carter Halsey's 2011, his only release on vinyl. It's called What You Carry. It's got a few songs on there that I've never ever heard before, and but I was just happened to get in a conversation with Carter recently, and he's got a little copy, and he's going to send it to me. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I've only seen one copy of it. Our friend Craig Smet, shout out to Craig.
Yeah.
He found it on eBay. It was a copy that some fan had bought years ago, and it was signed to this fan, a gal, if I remember correctly, and so Craig brought it to one of Carter's shows and said, "Hey man, will you sign this record?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he just literally is like, he's gonna just totally fuck with Craig, and he re-signed it to the person that he originally signed it for and handed it to Craig.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty goofy. But yeah, so I'm stoked to get that one in my collection. And then but like I said, a lot of it is just completing my collections of certain bands. And like Bad Religion, there's still like just a couple of records that I don't have. One of them is their Into the Unknown, and I'm still kind of even on the fence if I even want that record. I probably will get it eventually just to complete the collection.
Well, I have a feeling we're gonna hear about that album at some point.
Probably. So yeah, that's kind of my Grail situation.
All right. I got a few, and so my Grail comments are gonna lead into a whole new bit here in a second. But
and that's okay.
I got a few here, just kind of briefly. I would love to find. The first one would be the album "Prayers on Fire" by the Birthday Party, which was Nick Cave's band before Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
That's right.
And that's just a cool album. It's pretty intense, and like it's I don't know, I just dig it. So it'd just be fun to find that on vinyl. One is actually a record that I know is in Steve's collection, which is Shudder to Think's Pony Express record.
Oh.
Well, I'll get that for you next time I'm over there.
Oh yeah, if you don't mind. I know he never listens to it.
I would say every 5 years I'll pop in some Shudder to
It's a
Think,
weird
yeah.
one. It's a weird one, but I like that album a lot. That'd be a cool one to have on vinyl. And if I could get an OG pressing of the Stooges' Funhouse album.
Yeah, I've been thinking about buying a repress of that just because I see that all the time.
I've got a repress, and then I've got like a version of it that's like outtakes and also on LP, which is pretty cool. But I'd like to hear an original pressing of that one as well to see if there's any differences in sonic quality. But all right, so here I'm going to go into my next little bit, which is what I first thought about when you asked, like, what are your Grails? So this story begins with me very naively. One day, I'm at Half Price Books with my wife, and we're shopping, and I'm like, I'm going to buy myself a record today.
I'm going to buy one of the vinyls.
I'm going to buy a vinyl. So I'm like, thumbing through what they got, and in the end, I decide, you know what, I'm going to pick up the album Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. They have a few copies of it there, and they were on different labels. So the first thing I did was I looked up. I was like, why are these different prices? So I look up one, and it was like
same thing.
And it was like, oh, well, because this label is a garbage label. Don't get that one. So I'm like, cool. It's kind of what I thought. So I got the official Columbia release, and so I bring the album home. I'm listening to it, and I have to say, number one, I think the copy I got is maybe not great. Although I got to listen again and make sure it wasn't something weird going on my record player. I thought I heard some like kind of weird bits of distortion here and there.
Was it Satan calling to you?
Yeah, telling me. Yeah, well, for some reason, every time I listen to the album, I want to murder my parents. I don't know. It's the craziest
Which is like
thing.
the opposite of what Miles Davis
Yeah,
would
right.
have.
Yeah. So, all right. So as I'm listening to it, this is where like I feel like listeners who are hardcore vinyl fans are going to be like, this guy's a dope. He doesn't belong on this show. I type into the computer, I'm like, what's the best pressing of Kind of Blue? And oh my God, the information that like came my way. So
dudes on the internet be like, you're going to learn some shit today,
oh
bro.
my goodness, right? Yeah, like what a rabbit hole. And like I have so much information about it in front of me right now, I'm probably going to struggle to get through this segment. But so for those of you who don't know, brief history, the album Kind of Blue by Miles Davis is the most popular and best-selling jazz record of all time.
That I did not know. Is it even more so than Bitches Brew?
Oh, way more than Bitches Brew.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's actually, it's kind of like the Dark Side of the Moon of jazz albums,
Oh.
right? Just in terms of popularity and number sold. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I were guessing, I'd probably say Dave Brubeck's Take 5 or Time Out, whatever that album is maybe the second most best selling. That's just a guess because everybody knows that song Take 5. But I digress. So one of the things, this album was recorded in 1959. One of the things that made it not only popular because it was what am I trying to say? Popular just because people enjoyed it, but for musicians was because several of the songs were rooted in modal compositions, which was a new idea in jazz. And that basically means they use different types of scales to solo over. That's what modes essentially are. So there is so much information about the recording of this album that people out there, it's a Grail album for a lot of people because the recording, there's so much lore about the recording of it. So number one, all right, it was recorded simultaneously in stereo and mono.
Was this at the same time when mono was kind of like the main and like stereo was considered to be a novelty?
Stereo was new, and in fact, so the stereo version of this that was recorded, it was actually a 3-track player.
Okay.
And so it was left, right, and center. Some people love the stereo version because they think that, I think it's that center channel captured so much of the natural reverb of the room. Mm-hmm. Okay. But a funny thing happened with that stereo version, which is that the tape machine, the speed of it was a little bit off. And
for all the tracks?
For one side of the album. So they recorded 2 songs one day, I think, and then 2 songs, 3 songs another day.
So all 3 channels were off?
Yeah. So the speed, so basically instead of being 15 IPS, it was like a little bit faster. So for years, like it was mostly jazz musicians knew that like when they played to this album, they had to tune their instruments a little bit sharp to actually be able to match the pitch, because when you increase the speed, the pitch changes. Mm-hmm. Oh. So that wasn't discovered until I've got it here somewhere. I think it was in the 90s when they did a reissue, and someone was like,
and then did they fix it then?
They did fix it. So some people prefer the original version where it's faster. Some people think that that's more true.
I would have to imagine that would really jack jazz up if you got like one channel and like certain songs that are out of pace with everything else.
Well, but it's only one side, so everything was a little bit faster. Like and it was a little bit faster, and the tuning was altered.
I don't know how you feel about that. Me, I'm much more what did the artist intend originally?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, like, I guess it's true to the recording, yes, but that's not true to what them
absolutely,
as musicians
and that's not
were
really
trying
how
to do.
And especially when you're talking about the tempo of the music, they intended it to be a little bit slower than people became accustomed to for the first, 30, 40 years of its existence. That was the assumption that was. And they never really played this material live.
So it's not like there's a bunch of live albums where
to
you can
compare
hear
it to. There's there's hardly anything out there. And this was an all-star lineup too. Like everybody.
And Miles is probably high and didn't care.
John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley. I want to say Jimmy Cobb and Paul Chambers. So these are all very famous jazz musicians, right? And anyway, so you've got that. So, and then you've got, there's also a mono version of it, right? Some people think the mono sounds better than stereo. Some people prefer the stereo version.
So the mono version, the speeds the way it was supposed to be.
That's a good question. I don't.
We can table that.
So.
We can table that for later.
I might actually have that information in here. But I know they did them simultaneously. The interesting thing is that the original mono tape doesn't exist anymore. So all mono versions have been
digitized, and probably
they have been. And I want to say, I read that it was off. I might be confusing with something else here right now. That it was like off a cassette copy that they had. I may be confusing this with my next story,
or like a reel to reel or something.
Yeah, well, these were definitely all done on reel to reel to begin with, but So there's a ton of information about this out there for anyone who's curious, because I could go on and on with this with what I found.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, really, but it's fascinating to me. So I found a guy out there who was like, these are the best sounding versions, and he had 6. And so one is that the original 6i mono, and they call it a 6i because the little Columbia logo looks like an eye. And there were 6 of them on the label on the inside of the record. So that one, the original 6i stereo. So a lot of them, they're like the original pressing is the best one. MoFi did a release that a lot of people think is great. So I'm probably going to keep an eye out for that one.
MoFi?
I think it's still pretty reasonably priced.
Well, it's probably better than it was too after that whole hubbub they had where they were not all analog transfers for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
People got lit up about that. Oh, I just remember people were losing their minds. So I have to assume there's probably still a little bit of mistrust with MoFi to a point.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with them. I will say MoFi, to get off subject here for a second, I have 2 Weezer albums that are their versions. It's the blue and the green album. And they definitely sound different to me. Now, mind you, Weezer's a newer band. Their mix of it sounds a little flatter to me.
Really?
Yeah, and it's the only MoFi albums that I've ever had that I feel like I lose something by listening to them, to the point where at some point I'll probably buy different copies. But you know who I never have that issue with? Music on Vinyl, which is kind of MoFi's almost, adversary that are largely in the European market.
And that was one of the other pressings that this guy recommended, and he was a record store owner who had just had tons of copies throughout the years to compare, and these were his favorites. So the Music on Vinyl he liked, but he said that one was actually sourced 24-bit from 96K files. So that
right, and they never hide that.
Yeah,
they always say they will, when possible, they'll use direct tape. But if it's not available or it was recorded, digitally to begin with, they never hide that from anybody.
Yeah.
Whereas
you might as well just be,
right, and I respect them for that. Like I got a bunch of them because I got a guy that would sell me records. Like I got a bunch of Sly and the Family Stone records and stuff. I love all MoFi that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Or no,
you mean Music on Vinyl?
Music on Vinyl. I've never had an issue.
So I'm not the kind of collector who's gonna go out and get all 6 versions of those. But if I came across one of them,
I'm like that. I need one nice copy.
But if I'm gonna call it a Grail, I want to hear an original 6-eye stereo pressing. That's the Grail right there for me. But so to continue, same night that I'm listening to this, I'm looking through my records and I'm like, I'm going to listen to something else. And I was like, what's something else that I love? Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin 2 is probably my favorite Zeppelin album.
It's a good album.
So I put it on there. Equally naively, I type in best pressing of Led Zeppelin 2.
Oh, I'm sure that's a hot button topic.
Funny you use the word hot. So it turns out there is a pressing of this.
With the bass. The
original pressing of Led Zeppelin 2 is called the Hot Mix, and it's actually the mastering on it. It was mastered.
I know where you're going with this.
It was mastered
this is a good
be
story.
to be as loud as possible, lots of bass. They were make this thing heavy, right? So an advance copy of it goes to
test
I want to
pressing.
say was it Ahmet at Atlantic?
I think so.
And he gives it, Ahmet Ergatan, and he gives it to his niece to listen to, and she's got a little kitty, suitcase phonograph thing. Puts it on, and the needle just starts bouncing all over the place, it can't handle the bass, and just so.
I would love a copy of that as well.
He freaks out and calls the record plant and was like, "You have to stop pressing this right now." Well, the funny thing is, all of those original, not all of them, but a lot of the original ones, they go out to radio stations first. So the radio stations are playing this this hot mix or hot mastering version,
this rock ass version,
which is what people heard and made the album sell. But they stopped pressing on it, and then had subsequent versions, which everyone says are inferior. Which I have 2 copies of the inferior version over there. Which that was one of my first LPs that I bought myself. Actually, was Led Zeppelin 2. I bought it at a garage sale when I was probably in the 8th grade, something like that. I remember walking it home. Anyway, so this hot mix version is lots of people want to hear it. I don't think there's that many that are in awesome condition out there, but if you want to see if your version of Led Zeppelin 2 is the hot mix, what you want to do is you want to look at the dead wax on it and look for the initials RL etched into it, because the mastering engineers would often put their initials on there just so that you could go back and say that was their batch, for quality control reasons, I guess. So
last I found, you can. Some of them are for a not so decent copy of it. Some of them can be like $300.
Yeah. And I want to hear an
Actually,
awesome version of
too
it.
horrible for such a rare record and such a huge band. $300. That doesn't seem too outrageous. To me,
There wasn't a ton
Wow.
online.
Money bags over there. I must just be cheap.
Yeah, well, I mean, usually I cringe at anything over $40 for a record.
Me too.
Like, I ain't
Yeah,
paying
yeah,
for that. You know, every now and again,
$150 is where I'm like, it's got to be something I love.
No, as my father says, makes my Scottish blood run cold to pay more than a nickel for a movie. No, I don't know. Yeah. All right. So that's the end of my segment there. I got myself an education just by wondering what's the best pressing of X.
So into the rabbit hole, we'll call that.
Oh my God. Yep.
Into the rabbit hole with Stu.
That's right. Up the hole with Stu.
What other dirty things can we make out of this? Speaking of dirty stuff, I think we got a new segment you want to run us into.
Oh yeah, dirty. Listen, folks, we want to hip you to our new segment here. It's going to be record reviews, and we call it In the Sleeve with Steve.
Hey guys, here's what's in the sleeve with Steve. This week I'll be reviewing Mo Lauda and the Humble's 4th LP, which is self-titled. Released in March of 2023, this is definitely one you shouldn't sleep on. My first impression is that this album is a bit more mellow than their other albums. It is definitely more meticulous in its recording style, and I get the sense that they took their time recording, creating a playful arrangement of these songs, really letting the musicianship of every band member shine. Thick bass lines, bright guitar riffs, mixed with Shane's super tight, near flawless beats, create a super danceable, rocking record that absolutely hits live. I was lucky enough to catch them on the first leg of their tour in Madison, Wisconsin a few weeks ago. A few of my favorite tracks include Restive, Coast is Waiting, and Beach Town. You can check out this album and all their others wherever you stream music, through their social media, or at molauda.com. And they are basically touring all year, so if you can, go see them live and buy the record. But for now, here's Beach Town.
All right. Well, thank you for such a wonderful review, Steve.
Thank you.
All right. So my new segment is going to be a little bit different. So I think we've all at some point realized that there's a band that we have that in your mind, like, they could do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I love them. They're so good.
Oh, yeah.
Until they do wrong. So our, maybe we'll change the name later down the line.
He said doo-doo.
Yeah.
Doo-doo. So this is going to be our worst album by our favorite band, or a favorite band. So we're going to take turns on this. So today we're just going to do mine to kick us off. So let me paint the picture for you, boys. November 10th, 1981, we saw the culmination of Kiss's first major identity crisis. We had seen them try out Poppy Disco in 1979 with the release of Dynasty, which Stu loves.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Disco Stew over there.
Disco Stew. Followed by what they would describe as almost like the Doobie Brothers in makeup in 1980 with the release of their album Unmasked. Unmasked is probably one of my more forgettable albums of Kiss. Interestingly enough, side note, they have a Mexican version of that on vinyl that's this really wild like pattern. That's probably one of their more valuable records that Kiss had. So it was like orange splatter. They recreated it years later.
Is it like Kiss and like the Mexican wrestler masks instead of the paint?
We do not luchador shame.
If only they had had the foresight to do that.
Right?
Yeah, I think people would have liked it. Might have been hard to sing. Right, so then we get to what would become Music from the Elder. Having lost their original member, not to death, just he didn't want to be in the band anymore, just 2 months prior to this album, Eric Carr was hired to replace Peter Criss. Carr, of course, being superior to Peter Criss in every way. Like, this guy was an absolute diehard drummer. His kit was bigger. He was faster. And if you guys remember, one of my record store day releases that I picked up was his solo album that got kind of pieced together.
That's right.
He stayed with the band. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say it's up until like 1998.
Oh, really?
This is the 80s. So he was, with the exception of the original members, he was in the band for the longest time. Everything I ever heard, he was, like the workhorse in the band. He was agreeable. He was easy to work with. And
That's
then
rare in a drummer.
Yeah, just skilled in general. And then, of course, when this album was coming out, I don't think it was really public knowledge that Peter Criss is out of the band, because really the only way that came out was public releases and in the rock magazines and things like that. So the belief at the time for the band was that an ambitious concept album would bring back the credibility that they lost when they softened up their music. Mm-hmm. So the goal at the time was something along the lines of Pink Floyd's The Wall. So what did they do? They brought in Bob Ezrin.
How can you lose?
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bob Ezrin worked on The Wall, did he not?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So this is where the cracks in the plan start to show. So you remember, I don't know if I said this or not, but they wanted to go back to a heavier sound. So what did they do? They hired the American Symphony Orchestra and the St. Robert's Choir.
It's funny. It's you saying that Ezrin worked on this makes that make so much sense. Because he also worked on Alice Cooper albums. He did
great with Alice.
And I actually think we were talking about, maybe this ties in, I think Lou Reed as well for one or two of his big albums.
Which Lou Reed is going to play a role in this story.
And Ezrin loves those choir voices, like the "We Don't Need No Education," the kids, and like the orchestration.
Kind of his jam.
That's just like making it make sense now that you're talking. I didn't realize Ezrin was involved.
All right, so with the symphonic and operatic flavor comes an elaborate storyline. The story centers around the boy who overcomes adversity and self-doubt during his training. The boy was recruited and trained by an organization called the Council of the Elders. The Council of the Elders are part of a larger organization called the Order of the Rose, whose sole objective is to combat evil in a superhero style. So before we continue on with this, a little bit of a backstory. Anybody who knows anything about Kiss, Gene Simmons came from Israel as a child. When he got here, he became totally obsessed with comic books. He did like stuff in college about, panographic art forms and blah, blah, blah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He's I think it was a history teacher.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had like this comic book.
Huge into comic books.
Okay.
And Paul Stanley has a rose tattoo on his shoulder, so you can kind of see where some of this came from. Ezrin and the band worked in total isolation at 3 different locations. Due to numerous sessions with outside performers, the album took almost a year to complete. Right. So reportedly, when the band brought the album to Casablanca Records, the label was a little shocked. The band argued the fans would understand and appreciate the effort. Spoiler alert, they didn't. So... later on, we would see a 1998 comic book adaptation by a British fan with the last name Zoll. He created a screenplay. I'm sorry, he did not do the comic, but he did do a screenplay for the idea of he wanted to do a film, and it never got released. The album debuted at number 75 and eventually ended up in the record store cut bins mere months after its release.
It's harsh.
Gene Simmons, probably their biggest, here I'll kind of say this, their biggest song off of it was A World Without Heroes, which I've played for Stu and Steve here. And what did you guys think of that song?
Which one was that again?
A World, it was...
that was the slow one.
With Gene Simmons singing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the only single that they released. And then in the music video, this is the only music video, or the first music video Kiss ever got on MTV was that music video. Even has Gene Simmons with a little tear running down his eye. And then this song did not feature Ace Frehley because he stopped showing up for recording sessions. He was discouraged because the band was not delivering on his hard rock sound that he was promised. The band did not tour for this, even though they had drawn up plans to tour for this album. And they did not play a single song from that album until 1995 when they did MTV Unplugged, which was acoustic, which was the current band. And then they eventually would bring out Ace and Peter, and they'd play along. And then they played A World Without Heroes because like fans had been asking for it at their conventions and all kinds of stuff. It developed kind of like a cult following, so to speak. So it kind of went through some of the songs here. So number 1, The Oath. Bob Ezrin, Paul Stanley, and actor Tony Powers wrote this song. The album kicks in. It's a little anticlimactic note. I'd kind of describe it as being like a wandering minstrel. Paul's falsetto is kind of overshadowing the simplistic vibe of the music. A little bit of a misfire. I want to jump down to track number 3, The Odyssey. Absolutely forgettable song. I could easily hear like the previous Moody Blues references kind of tying into this song. Number 4, when you get to, it's called Only You, we finally get some rock guitar. It seems like they're trying to build some tension and kind of go somewhere with it. Never really delivers on that. Gene's vocals are weak and submissive, which, that's not what that guy really, where he shines. Yeah. Gene was like the demon, the monster, the guy that's like powerful. No. Under the Rose has a slow build to what I would kind of describe as like a Viking Valhalla song. When Dark comes in, it's like a breath of fresh air. You instantly hear the song, which is clearly written by Ace. It's got his signature guitar style, the attitude all over. I guess this song was kind of written with Lou Reed and Anton Fig. They were kind of like tied in on this. Probably one of the better songs on the album. This is the only song that Ace actually sings. And what I would later find out was that this was actually on the Debo concept album, like that they put together for this. And then later, for whatever reason, they cut out a bunch of stuff. I got the vibe like they just probably wanted to throw this in for filler. The oath was meant to be where the hero finds his footing. You know, we got the galloping guitar coming in, kind of reminded me of the song Barracuda. The lyrics are kind of a beat on your chest masculinity. And I don't know, maybe Paul Stanley probably wasn't the right guy for that song.
Yeah.
Paul Stanley's not the masculine one in the group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A World Without Heroes. So that song, probably the most successful track off the album. Originally, it was supposed to be titled Every Little Bit of Your Heart. A name was changed when they decided to use it for this album. It was originally created for a different album. Lou Reed came up with the most popular line from the song, which is, "A world without heroes is like a world without sun."
Go Lou.
Go Lou. And then that song would go on to be covered by Cher, and then also a heavy metal group called Witherscape.
Huh. All right.
So it's definitely got some following.
Do you know anything about how Lou Reed got involved with these guys, other than maybe that Bob Ezrin connection?
I would assume it was the Bob Ezrin.
Yeah, probably.
That's the only thing that makes sense. Escape from the Island, which is an instrumental song, definitely one of the more powerful songs. You get to hear Ace and Eric Carr just really go to town. It's the second to last track. It's just solid. Lyrically, this is how we close the album out. Lyrically very positive, classic guitar runs. You kind of learn to appreciate. It's like you get to the end of the album and it's like, this is where we should have probably started out with, and then ultimately it kind of ends up falling flat. I think when we got to this song, the goal was kind of trying to have everyone kind of rally behind. It was supposed to be like an anthem, kind of like they tried to do with Rock and Roll All Night originally, and then they would not successfully achieve until 1992 when they got God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Okay.
So,
which I believe was also, did they write God Gave Rock and Roll to You?
To You Too is the name of the song.
Okay. I know the Christian rock band Petra did that song as well, but I don't know who came first.
I'm pretty sure it was Kid.
They probably covered it then, yeah.
That could be. So kind of my closing thoughts on it. I respect them for trying something new, trying to expand their wings. The thing is though, certain bands can do that and certain bands can't. I don't think Kiss was really ever a band that could really expand their wings too far.
Yeah.
I think they were a rock band.
Yeah, they kind of had their shtick almost, and
sometimes
you just got to stick with it.
But it's funny, so I have not heard this album all the way through. You played us snippets, but I kind of feel if I had heard this album at the right time in my life, I might have become a Kiss fan based on that album, because this kind of it sounds like they went for it too late, because that concept album thing was real big in the 70s, right?
And then later on, to a point, some of the stuff they were doing, like Metallica did, like playing with a symphony and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think what they were trying to do was admirable, but the delivery was terrible. There's too much inner turmoil in the band. Things weren't planned out well. I think they were just struggling to find their identity.
Maybe so, but I actually want to listen to this one start to finish and see if I like it.
Well,
I do.
If you,
I really do.
If you do, please let me know. We can revisit Stu's opinion on that album. And for years, this was their only album that didn't go platinum. It has since gone platinum. I don't know that it's gone double platinum, which is always Kiss's shtick. So anyway, will I buy it? Probably at some point.
You wanted the best. We didn't quite give it to you this time.
Right. And it wasn't too long. I think they released one more album after that, and then they took the makeup off.
Yeah.
Which was Creatures of the Night.
I think it was also a mistake.
Yeah.
Taking the makeup off.
Well, they had some popularity in the late 80s and early 90s, but it was never really felt like them. Gene Simmons was off doing his movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With Tom Selleck.
What movie was that?
I'd have to look the name up.
I didn't know that. You mentioned
he plays like a villain, like a villain that makes robots.
Huh. Okay.
Tom Selleck was in a movie with robots?
Yeah, Gene Simmons was the villain, and Tom Selleck was a
Sounds
cop.
great. Sounds great.
Runaway, 1984.
Huh. All right.
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
It's not bad.
You mentioned the comic book thing, and I remember that there was the Kiss comic book that came out where supposedly they had infused the ink with their blood.
Yep, I used to have that.
Did you really?
Yeah, I sold it years and years ago. They dropped their blood in the red ink at Marvel.
Yeah.
Stan Lee was there and everything. It was a big thing. Stan Lee is like, whatever. I just think I got to get paid.
Sell more books, man.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I got. You guys got anything?
That's pretty much all I know about Kiss. That's
Next on Kiss Talk.
Yeah.
Kiss Talk with James.
Yeah, I mean, I probably could ramble about them a lot. So thanks again, guys, for checking us out. Make sure you leave us reviews where you can. If you hate us, I don't know why you're listening to us right now. That really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Why have you come this far?
Well, yeah, it's pretty late in the show, so joke's on you, sucker.
Yeah.
Favorite podcast, worst episode?
Maybe. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Just One More Record Podcast. We're on the Instagram. Not on Twitter because I don't have time to post on Twitter too. Send us an email at onemorerecordpodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. So last thing I want you to remember, we're going to let Stu say it.
There is always more vinyl.
Nailed it.